Hey, Sand Nation, what's going? Happy weekend to everybody. Happy holidays. If you're not in the US, then today was just a day that the market was closed. But for those in the US, today was Memorial Day. So it's in remembrance of those that have served the country and fought for it. Nonetheless, let's get into it. This is going to be a market overview video for this coming week. What you see on your screen is SPY on a daily time frame. A lot of this will look familiar because we are still in this range bound. We're slowly creeping up. So the patterns are still valid. The data is still there. We are looking at an inverse head and shoulders here. Shoulder, head, potentially a shoulder forming here, rising wedge on two different time frames. We're going to remove all the other stuff so you can kind of see what has happened in the last couple of trading days, right? So Friday we had a massive, massive move up, right? So it was pretty much, what is it, like a 5 point move, which is huge for SPY. We do have a double top, just something to keep note of. Double top, right? Equal tops, equal highs, equilibrium. So we could see a possible rejection off that, right? And a pullback. Just something to keep a note of. The other thing I want to point out is going to be SPY on the weekly time frame. Actually, let me go back to that. So we do have, this was a two up, might have a possible two reversal or consolidation after such a powerful move. We will see, but as you can see, we are making higher highs and higher lows and whatnot. So very interested to see if this is going to be taken out tomorrow or if we reject off. Anyway, let's go into the weekly time frame. So we're going to weekly time frame. This is where it's kind of interesting. So I'm going to remove the drawings. So we did have a hammer, right? This is a great, powerful sign that the sellers just got taken advantage of, right? If we zoom in, you can see that they pushed it down and then the buyers just pushed back up. Very, very powerful sign for the buyers. Every single time we had a hammer of that effect, it was just not very, very good for the sellers, right? Okay. But so the cool thing to note is that we did have an outside week. If we zoom in, you can see that, we had pretty much an outside week. We took out the low and we took out the high just by a few cents, not much, but by a few cents, right? You can see that previous week high was 40, 20, 72. This last week was 40, 20, 77. So by 5 cents, right? We took it out, still counts as inside or outside week. This coming week could possibly be a 3-2 up, depending on how futures react this evening and tomorrow, or it could be a inside bar. One, I don't foresee it going to be a 2 down, just unless some kind of crazy economic data comes out and it's bad and whatnot. But other than that, we should not make a 2 down. Now, it doesn't mean that can be possible. Like I said, this is about reading data and taking out the higher probability. So more probability of either going 2 up, maybe a failed 2 up, or consolidate and do an inside week, just like back in May 8th, right? After usually a powerful move, that's what kind of happens. So something to keep a note of. That's kind of what we got going into tomorrow. We can go on the daily time frame and kind of see where we're standing at. So, right, we do have a big fair value gap at the top. We do have this other regular gap from 420.72 to 421.22. Fair value gap that I have marked off is 420.72 all the way up to 425.49. What that means is that there's a big imbalance here between supply and demand, or buyers and sellers. So we can pull up into here, and at any given point, we can reject off of that, right? If there's enough imbalance and it gets absorbed, right? And we also have these two trend lines, right? So trend line tomorrow could be starting at 422, or it could be at 423.5. And that aligns with this fair value gap. We can reject off that and start coming back down. I'd be looking for the daily 50% as a support. If we do come back down, that's what I'd be looking for as our support zone. So something to keep in mind going to tomorrow. Let's take a look at the quad real quick. So Apple, let's go start with Apple, right? So Apple has done this. It broke out of this from all-time highs. It broke out of it, right? The crazy thing is that most of the stock market has pretty much recovered almost its entire loss from COVID times or post COVID, right? Post um, rate hikes, right? When we started doing the rate hikes, and everybody thought doom and gloom back in January of this year when we hit the all time low. So we can talk about Nvidia later on, but Nvidia is one of the few, along with I think Microsoft, that pretty much recovered its entire loss. So with Apple, we had a 2-2 continuation, um, and we are close to this the supply zone, this order block. We also have this rising wedge that last Friday, not this previous Friday, but 2 Fridays ago, we hit that and it came back down, and then we tapped this upward trend line. So tomorrow we could be expecting possibly, potentially, continuation up into this supply zone, into this order block, and tap this trend line and come back down. If it does do that, that just means that SPY will go up with it. Now, if we look at the weekly time frame, this is where it gets interesting. This is actually a inside week. This is your inside week. This right here is your inside week. This is your two outside bar. Two up, right? So two up inside week, but it's a hammer. So we are potentially expecting a continuation back up, right? But with that said, if it does continue up, whether we got to debate whether this is going to be a 2 up week or a failed two, or maybe a consolidation. Could it come back down? Yeah, it could. It's not too far away. Very possible, about 5 points away. So Apple does have a chance to come back down again. So just something to keep note of. Let's go to Amazon. So Amazon had a very, very powerful day. This is a massive 2 up day, just like SPY, right? We are in this neckline, this supply order block zone, whatever you want to call liquidity, right? We did break out this channel on Friday. So the question is, are we going to test this trend line again, pull back and test the trend line, or are we going to continue up and test possibly this gap at 120, 124 to 125? So that's what I like to look out for Amazon going into this week. We can also go into the weekly time frame. So we did have a massive look. It's just a 2-2 continuation. 1, 2, 3 weeks of continuous movement for Amazon. The thing to note is that we are overextended. So it's at 109, pretty much 110 is where the clouds end. So we are about 10 points above that. So like I said, we could see a potential move up and then come back out. So we did break out this channel, right, this wedge. So we might be seeing a pullback and retest. And if it fails to hold, it comes back in. If that is the case, then it will affect SPY and whatnot. So just something to keep in mind of, right? Like I said, we did break out of it. Let's see if we come back, test tomorrow or this week, and then pull back in, or we continue up. Let's go to Microsoft. So Microsoft, it's like Google. It's crazy, right? Just had this massive run because of AI and tech, whatnot. So we do have this inverse head and shoulders that we were talking about, right? So we blew past this neckline, this supply zone. It was just a massive run. There is a gap here. You can see it very, very small. Well, not very small, but it's tiny on this chart because I don't zoom in. But you can see we do have a gap from 316 to 320, which is a decent sized gap. And we are overextended on the daily time frame. So you can see that we are overextended, right? So right here, we're about 3.5 points, give or take a few cents, overextended. But again, this was just a powerful 2 up on Friday. Massive, massive run. Again, Microsoft tech, right? AI field. So we are seeing the effects of that. Possibly a two down reversal. We are overextended on the weekly too, as you can see. We are overextended on the weekly by almost a little bit over 17 points. So quite a bit, right? From about 306.75. We do have this order block, which is pretty much at all-time highs, right? All-time highs was at 349.67. Microsoft is at 332.89. It's pretty insane. Like I said, it's just amazing to see this kind of run, right? So we do have a rounded bottom, right? We're looking for this rounded bottom. Could continue up. We could draw trend lines, but right now it just seems like everything just has blown by, right? If we draw this trend line, you can see it broke through already. But I'd be looking for possibly a continuation up to this order block and then a rejection and come back down. That's what I'd be looking for on Microsoft, right? 2-2 up. possibly two up continuation, and the rejection. It really depends on what futures does tonight and into morning. If it futures opened up high last night, and this today it was trickling down, but it is still above where it closed on Friday. So we will still end up above tomorrow if it holds into the open market. We talked about Apple, Microsoft, and now we can talk about we talked about Amazon. Let's do Google. Google, same thing, right? Inverse head and shoulders, rising wedge, similar pattern, nothing much difference. Google has been in a pretty much a 5-day market bounce, right? It's stuck in this zone. We have fair value gap up here. This was the neckline that it broke above. Now it's coming back in. It is overextending a little bit. 121.7475 is where the clouds are at. We do have a 212 2 combo going to tomorrow inside bar. This is your 2. So potentially we might have a 2 up continuation and hit this fair value gap and then reject, or we can hit the trend line and then start to pull back. That is on the daily time frame. Weekly time frame, even better, right? We have a 2 spinning top or doji, right? Just means that after 2 consecutive weeks of massive movement up from 104 or up to 126, that's 22-point move for Microsoft is huge. We are overextended, right? So now we're overextended to the clouds on the weekly by about 6 points or 5.9 points. So again, what I'm looking at for this week is that possibly a continuation in the first day or so. Again, this is a shortened week. We have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And then maybe potentially the pullback towards the end of the week. That is just something I'm looking at thinking about. But just after a massive movement, if you look at RSI, MACD, Stoic, or whatever you're trading to tell you whether it's overbought, oversold, you can see that it's pretty much overbought, and a pullback, a pullback which is healthy is expected. We can look at the QQQ real quick. Again, QQQ made a massive move, extended, broke out of this rising wedge, broke out of this supply zone order block. See if it's get pulled back on the daily time frame. The other thing to know, I pointed this out, last week, was that we did break all-time highs in August. However, SPY did not, nor did ES. We can go back and look at it. Right, so SPY's all-time high, or not all-time, August high set at 430. Just something to note, right? A little bit different. So we are looking for this overextended on the daily. You can see that QQQ's sitting around like 337 flat for the overextension. Is a 2-2 up continuation. Looking for a possible 2 up continuation and fail and come back down. And that could be the start. If it does go up and come back down, that could be the start of the pullback in the longer grand scheme of things, right? Again, weekly, it's a pretty good bullish candle, right? A hammer. So just something to keep an eye on. Let's go look at futures NQ real quick. So I've been drawing this out for a while now, just because one of my, FinTwit acquaintance on here, Charting Cat, Katrina. She is primarily focused on NQ, and I was looking at this. I was like, oh, we have this nice rising wedge pattern. You can see it's just been tapping it. We do have this fair value gap here that we are in. I am looking to see whether, this is tonight's action. You can see that we did gap up and we came back down. So the question is, do we hold this, or do we break above it tomorrow and into the fair value gap and then come back down maybe Wednesday into Thursday and Friday? As you can see, this is already overextended, right? NQ is sitting at 43.85 on the weekly time frame. The clouds are at 13.516, so pretty good overextension. Even on the daily, it's sitting at, I would say 13.968 versus where it's at 14.34. So again, still a hefty overextension. Again, we do have this massive bullish candle, right? So we are already going to start as a 2 up on NQ. Question is, do we fail and come back down on the weekly time frame? We will look at ES real quick. ES very similar, right? We did not break August's high yet. We are in this rising wedge. We are overextended again on weekly time frame. This was a hammer, powerful, right? You can see so ES's overextension on the weekly is 41.57. We're at 42.25 or 24. So a good, solid 70 points away. Weekly time frame, same thing, right? Overextended. Clouds are at 41.80. We're here. We do have this order block, and then we have fair value gap above it. So if we do break above it, I am expecting a potential rejection off this and pull back in, right? Again, this is August's high. So that's kind of what we got going forward to this week. I think a lot of people are expecting a pullback of sorts. Whether it happens tonight, tomorrow, or the subsequent day is really the question. I do think we will find a solid support zone, support line, support area, and then we'll hold that, and then we'll make an attempt to test August high on some of these equities. Some of these equities have already broken August high, right? SPY has not, neither has ES. Like I said, NVIDIA already did. NVIDIA broke all times high. Again, I do like NVIDIA because it is very, very overextended. And you can see that on Friday was inside day, right? 212 tomorrow. So I would still say that I think there was news that they're doing a buyback, which could affect NVIDIA's price. So on daily time frame, we're overextended by 40 points. On a weekly time frame, we are overextended even more, right? 70 something points. Monthly time frame, even more. Monthly is almost 120 points. I had pointed this out earlier, saying NVIDIA is something of interest because back in, where is this? Right here. So November of 2021, NVIDIA just, 2021 from October or until December or November, NVIDIA went from, 195 all the way up to 350, kind of similar to what happened here. And a lot of people thought at this point, like NVIDIA was just going to keep going up. They were expecting a little pullback and then continuation up. Obviously, this whole downtrend was due to, the Russian-Ukraine conflict and the debt, the not the debt, but the inflation rate. And then I also think at a certain point in time, I think Taiwan was hit by an earthquake that, kind of impacted TSM, which is a chip maker. And obviously COVID shut a lot of things down. So this was due to that. Not saying that, this scenario will happen again because of whatnot, but do keep in mind that, this was a historical once in a lifetime gap, right? We're talking about like 60 something point gap. I think if you like a lot of people that did calls and got 380 calls for Friday, Thursday into Friday or Wednesday into Thursday, pretty much made, I don't know, some crazy number like 14 to 20,000% off of one, right? So life changing money, some people. But again, when we have such a massive gap, it's going to come back down. It's going to get filled. Whether people like it or not, it does get filled, right? You can see there's a gap here, gapped up, and then eventually got filled. This is a massive gap, and we have another gap down here. So it's not going to sustain this run forever, right? It's going to eventually have to come down. So I would say that this is something of very interest to me. I don't think we're going to fill this right away. I don't think it's going to do this crazy, massive, 2021 into 2022 and then into 2023 kind of drop. I do think that a healthy pullback will be coming. So whether that's 10, 20, 30 points, that's to be seen. But like I said, we have a gap. We're overextended. If 212 combo going tomorrow. I mean, if you look at the weekly time frame, it's just nuts, right? Look at this bar. If we look at this bar, it's just pretty intense. So on the weekly, we made a 96 point run. Like I said, if you look back here, we did the same thing and eventually it pulled back. So very interested to see where it goes. We can draw a trend line here and see if we continue, right? This could be a broadening formation that we like to use in the strat, right? So we can say that we tapped up, down, up, maybe we're coming back down. Again, keep in mind that this is very powerful, right? NVIDIA, any of the AI related companies, anything tech related like that, it's just very strong right now. But again, my stance is that we made such a massive run. Could we continue up? Sure. I mean, people thought when we made this massive run back in October 21, there's no way we could do it again, and we did. We did a week, and then another week and week, and then eventually we came back down just because you can't sustain it, right? Just something to keep in mind. But anyway, that is it for the market. Like I said, I do expect a pullback of sorts this week coming for the entire market, finding some kind of support, and then unless if there's no negative news, then we should try to continue up. SPY will try to attempt to 425 and 430. Whether it's this week or subsequent week is really to be determined. But that's kind of what I'm looking for going into next week. Anyway, thank you guys and girls. Hit the like, hit subscribe, leave a comment. Thanks. Bye.